Remember how Shakespeare often took stories from other people's work and then tweaked them into his own plays? Fun fact, the original story of King Lear didn't include Lear's madness. Lear's insanity is Shakespeare's surprise, a crazy plot twist. That's why it's so important to look closely at this theme and ask, why did Shakespeare make Lear go mad? You will remember from our video on context that the play follows the ancient form of tragedy, defined by the philosopher Aristotle. In a tragedy, the important character experiences a big downfall, and usually a lot of people die at the end. If you go through King Lear, you can see that King Lear's descent into insanity follows Aristotle's tragic conventions very closely. First, Lear's hamartia, or fatal flaw, catalyses his journey into madness. Like many tragic heroes, Lear suffers from hubris, or extreme arrogance. He doesn't want to take responsibility for his kingdom, giving up the hard work to his sons-in-law and declaring, "We still retain the name and all the additions to a king." This means Lear is so arrogant that he wants to keep the showy pomp of being a king without the hard work. He also wants to feed his ego by listening to flattery, saying to his daughters, "Which of you shall we say doth love us most?" When Cordelia refuses to sweet-talk him, he becomes absolutely furious. Kent tries to calm him down, but Lear exiles him too and yells, "Come not between the dragon and his wrath." The metaphor of dragon characterises Lear as an unstable, violent monster who won't be separated from his wrath or anger. Already, Lear's ego stops him thinking rationally about the situation. Goneril and Regan debrief at the end of the scene, revealing that Lear has always been rash or reckless. Regan comments, "'Tis the infirmity of his age." Infirmity means weakness. The sisters predict that as Lear grows older, he will become even more mentally unstable. The hamartia of Lear's hubris eventually leads to his peripeteia, or change of fortune. His pride makes him so angry, irrational and unreasonable that Goneril and Regan kick him out of their castles. The first sign that he is losing power is when Kent, disguised as Lear's servant, is put in the stocks, a medieval form of punishment. Lear can't believe that his own daughter would disrespect him like that, repeating in disbelief, "No, no, I say, no, no, I swear, no." He tries to fight his crazed anger, saying, "Hysterica passio, down, thou climbing sorrow, thy elements below." Hysterica passio was an illness that women were diagnosed with when they were apparently too emotional. It's a metaphor suggesting that the emotions of wounded pride and anger are beginning to overpower Lear. His language becomes increasingly crazed, full of short sentences and illogical exclamations like "vengeance, plague, death, confusion." When he discovers that Goneril and Regan are kicking him out of their homes, it's the last straw, the peripeteia. Now he has no power as king or respect as father. Lear violently yells invectives or insults at his daughters, calling them unnatural hags. At the end of the scene, he storms out into an actual storm, exclaiming, "Oh, fool, I shall go mad." The storm symbolises Lear's madness. A gentleman says that he is contending with the fretful element. He is actually fighting with the weather itself. He bids the winds blow the earth into the sea. Absurdly, he actually tries to yell commands at the weather. Lear cries, "Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks, rage, blow." He is apostrophising or addressing the wind, as if the storm were one of his subjects that would obey him. The imperatives, or commands, suggest his ridiculous delusions of power. The gentleman thinks that Lear has lost it, saying that Lear strives in his little world of man to outscorn the to and fro conflicting wind and rain. The contrast between Lear's little world of man and the powerful wind and rain illustrate Lear's irrationality. He has tried to control his kingdom, family, and even the weather, but in reality, he is powerless. He's still full of hubris. As a result, Lear is growing increasingly insane. According to tragic convention, a hero's sufferings lead to a moment of realization or anagnorisis. Ironically, Lear realizes more truth as he goes crazier and crazier. As he starts to go mad, the anagnorisis begins when Lear recognizes that he has been a proud and selfish king. During the storm, he imagines all those in his kingdom experiencing poverty and homelessness. He exclaims, "Oh, I have ta'en too little care of this." He realizes that he has not had compassion for the poor. He commands his own pomp, or fancy pride, to take physic, a metaphor for taking medicine. This is the beginning of Lear's desire to heal his own destructive pride. Another step towards Lear's full anagnorisis is in the middle of his incoherent rambling in Act 4, Scene 6. He's dressed in flowers, a symbol of his madness, and doesn't recognise the people around him. Lear chatters on and on nonsensically about power, women, justice, hypocrisy, and politics. But Edgar exclaims, "Reason in madness!" Ironically, even though Lear appears mad, he is figuring out some profound truths. In the middle of his rant, he utters a deep insight about the essential vulnerability of humankind. He muses that when we are born, we came crying hither. We cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. The crying of babies is a symbol for the suffering and weakness experienced by all humanity. Life is metaphorically described as a great stage of fools. In other words, it's like everyone is just an actor pretending to have power. When a baby is born, they cry because they know the truth about their own vulnerability. At the end of the day, humans are ultimately powerless, so life will always be full of suffering. Lear has realised that even though he is technically a king, all his status means nothing. When Lear finally reunites with Cordelia in the doctor's tent, his anagnorisis continues. He has just woken up and is pretty disoriented. As he starts to gain awareness, he says, "I feel this pin prick." The metaphor represents his sharp clarity as he begins to realise both where he is as well as his own weakness. He meekly says to Cordelia, "Pray, do not mock me. I am a very foolish, fond old man." What a contrast to his delusions of power at the beginning of the play. His humble tone shows that his anagnorisis is complete. He realises that his hubris was mistaken, that he was unjust towards Cordelia, that he made very foolish political decisions, and that he is essentially weak, like all other humans. His madness is no longer raging and angry, but calm and childlike. When Edmund captures them, Lear is happy to go to prison with Cordelia, saying, "We'll live and pray and sing and tell old tales and laugh at gilded butterflies." The list is very simple and childlike. He is happy to finally be reunited with his daughter, even in prison. Seeing Lear so vulnerable stirs the emotions of pity and horror in the audience, that someone so powerful has fallen so low. This is called pathos, a key convention of tragedy. When Cordelia dies, the grieving Lear dies of a broken heart, and the audience experiences catharsis or emotional release. Wow, what an emotional roller coaster for the characters and the audience. Lear's descent into madness and then his journey towards anagnorisis in the midst of insanity serve as a powerful exploration of the human condition. We hope you enjoyed this Schooling Online production. For more easy lessons on King Lear, check out our analysis of the theme of gender in the play.